Hello everyone, my name is Braden, and today we're going to be going over the introductory video for making games on an Android platform inside of Unity. So one of the first things we're going to go over here is actually downloading Unity Hub, which essentially all you're going to do is go to the unity.com website here, click Get Started, and they're going to ask you teams and video. You just want to click individual unless you're a professional marketing team, etc. Then you're going to go here, and you can either go student or you can go personal. But we're going to go personal for now. And then you just click download for Windows, and you'll download the Unity Hub setup. I already have it downloaded, so I don't really need to download it. And then on top of that, so actually I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's running. You'll want to run it. Yes. And then it'll say, I agree. Go ahead and read through here. And then blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to click install, but just click install. And then you're going to launch up Unity, and it'll look something like this. Unity Hub. There we go. Okay. So it's going to look something a little bit like this, but this entire area here will be empty. And you'll go over here to installs, and then actually we'll go into that in the next one. But that's what it's going to look like. Here we have GIMP, which is going to be something you can use. It's a free program for, it's an open source image editor. You can use it for graphic design and stuff, but I'm going to be using Photoshop, which is very similar to GIMP. But you can use either one, and they're pretty similar in setups, but just with minor differences. But yeah. So, anyways, let's go ahead and go over this little curriculum here. So obviously we have the introduction video, but then we're gonna have we're gonna set up the SDK, so the software development kit and the coding environment preferences. We're gonna set up our workspace, etc. in the first one. Go over UI design, asset store, designing levels in session 3, and players for mobile, like creating a player character that can move, and just some best practices with creating Android games. And then we're going to be building, and we're going to be talking about the Play Store and itch.io and all these other places where you can publish them. But in a sense, that's pretty much the project. It's a fairly short one, and it's just going to kind of go over the basics and like beginner level stuff, but it might go a little bit more advanced than the last one I did, which was the beginner one, but I think it'll be okay. I think you guys can handle it. But anyways, yeah. Hope you all do enjoy and stick around. Hello everyone, today we're going to be doing session number 1 in the Making an Android Game Inside of Unity tutorial series. And today we're going to be setting the APK builder, or the software development kit, the preferences, and essentially just setting up our workspace. We installed the Unity Hub last time, and so now what we're going to want to do here is go over here to our installs, and we're going to go ahead and click install editor. We're going to go with this recommended version of 21. So we'll go here, and we'll click here for this Android kit here, which is very helpful. And we don't need documentation. So, but we only need this and that. So it should be okay. Make sure it's installing on the right what do you call it? So yeah, just go ahead and click here. Make sure you select this Android support here. This is the latest version of the Unity Hub, so. And then we'll click I've read, install. And then it's just going to go through all these processes where it's going to download this stuff. Now, this can take variable amounts of times. I have a very high download speed, so it shouldn't take too long. But yeah. Alright, so now what we're going to be doing is we're going to go to our projects, new project, and then we're going to select let's go ahead and select just 2D here. Alright, let's select 2D mobile here, yeah? That'll probably be best because it's going to select us with 2D and all the recommended packages for it. So then we're going to say making an Android game. So now we're going to go ahead and create that. But yeah, as soon as we create that, it's going to all start starting up, and it'll all be nice and ready for us pretty soon anyway. Sometimes it takes a little longer than other times, so bear with me on that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and attempt to readjust on my microphone and stuff because that took a lot longer than I kind of expected it to. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start with this, and obviously this is like, oh, okay, well, what is, like, this isn't really anything. But if we go to our build settings, what we need to first do is go over to Android, and then it says that we don't have any Android model selected, which is wrong. So what? Oh, you see, we actually launched into the wrong Unity version, so let's make sure we launch into the right one there. So this one is supposed to be... Oh, no, this one is supposed to be the newest one here, so let's open with that one. Okay, it's already opening. Let's go ahead and close out of that. Let's open up our task manager and close out of that. Okay, so let's try that now. Change the version. So make sure you're in the right version. That is apparently important. So I'll go ahead and let that run through. And yeah, go ahead and click continue if you loaded into the wrong version. But considering you guys will probably mostly only have one version, it should be okay. Okay, so now we're going to start with something that looks sort of like this. And first thing we'll do is go to build settings, and we'll click on Android here, and we'll click switch platform. This is just going to ensure that we are actually building it on the correct platform here, which will be Android. And bear with me, I'm using this is like the first couple times I'm actually using the new version of Unity. I'm not used to it, but I feel like I can, I got that. But so we pretty much have everything here. So let's go ahead and set up our workspace with a few folders. And so the first folder we're going to make is going to be called scripts. And then we're going to make another folder called art. And I think that must be it for now. So we have our main screen here, which doesn't really look that cool. So we're going to actually change this to probably just to black for now, because there's no sandbox. It's all orthographic. And see, the difference is perspective versus orthographic. Orthographic is like going to be a more 2D look, while if I go take out a 2V here, you see it's kind of a 3D camera, which means it can go like any direction there. But if I turn it to orthographic, it's just a square render. So like even if I have a 2D sprite right all the way over there, it's still going to be oh, maybe not that far, I guess, depending on how far my camera is. Might be nice to know. Oh, do I not have gizmos on? Okay, so it's not that bad. Okay, so if we maybe bring it in a bit more, you see it's still loaded the same area, really. It's like if I go from 1 and I go all the way back, it's still loading in the same actual area, because it's still normal. So for preferences, we're gonna go to edit preferences, and here's where you can set your tool, your like external script editor. I recommend Visual Studios 2022. They're very much well done. And then this should already be set off of our stuff with our Android SDK, NDK, all this stuff. So yeah, you can just kind of go over here, set your colors if you want them to be specific. the way I set my you can set your editor theme to light or dark, and system font or Inter. I use the Inter one, which is their font. Or you can set it to your system default, but that's basically the little bit of a basics there. Let's call this high. I don't know. We'll like do that real quick. And also make sure you stay in 2D. It makes it so much easier. So, because this is like what our game actually looks like right here. You know, like that's right there. And let's go ahead and just like, let's do this. All right, cool. Cool, but obviously if we play it, there's nothing in there. There's nothing happening here, obviously. But really that's all we had for today, was just kind of installing stuff and like kind of going over like how to make sure you set up your Unity correctly. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope to see y'all in the next one. Hi everyone, my name is Braden, and today we're going to be going over session number 2. And in this session, we're going to be going over basis UI design and the asset store and essentially how to use it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at our scene here, and there's something that's already starting to happen, and it's that we're already kind of getting messy here. So I'm going to show you guys sort of scene optimization, and this is, I'm doing this a little early just because I prefer to have it down earlier rather than later. Go ahead and go over to this hierarchy area and right click and create an empty, and let's call this ground. Now let's go ahead and actually name this platform or something, just so we have like a name for it. And then let's go under here, and we'll even underscore 1, or you know, like, let's go ahead, we can, so that we can differentiate them. All right, cool. So now we're a little bit more organized. We can do this. Awesome. That feels a lot better. Obviously, still we can't play anything because we don't have any scripts in the thing at all. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go to the asset store real quick, and we're going to go to search online, which is going to open it up in the menu here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to 2D. And we're going to go to 2D again. 2D, and then we're going to go to GUI. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to go over here and click free assets. Okay. So there's a lot of things we could do here. I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of things here just because I think they'll prove fairly useful here. One of those things is going to be where is it? Can't find it now. Of course I can't find it now. One of them will be this one here because I think it's pretty. And we'll look up Joystick. And there we go. We'll actually go ahead. We'll do these. Just because I kind of like these, how they look. They look nice. Cool. So now we'll go ahead and click open in Unity. You can click always or just open in Unity Editor. It's going to open up this thing called the package manager, which is essentially just the manager of all your assets and packages and such. So we're going to click download here. And you see I have a fair bit I've used over my time. So now it's already downloaded, so I'm going to click import, install / upgrade. And yeah, I'll give it just a minute. But yeah, while this is resolving, I'm going to kind of talk about the whole like difference between like 2D versus 3D, because a lot of people get it, but a lot of people don't like actually get it. So real quick, I'm going to open up paint.net. We're going to kind of draw out a little bit of a demonstration of what the difference is. So 3D, oh, that's terrible. So 3D, or well, okay, let's try that again. 3D, Okay, you know, we're just gonna write it out, I guess. So 3D is a basic perception. Oops. So we have three different dimensions. We have 3D, 2D, and 1D. 3D essentially looks like this. Plus that one right there. So what this means is that each object has a layer, a 2D layer, another 2D layer, another 2D layer, all visible. So it's basically 3 2D layers to make a cube, or something like, it's kind of similar to that. But basically it just has 3 axes, which means it can move 3 different ways. So it can move on the x-axis, or axis, whatever you want to call it. It can move on the y-axis, or it can move on the z-axis. Just like that. While 2D only has 2 axes. And then 1D would just be 1 square pixel. It should be like 1 pixel. Just like that. That would be 1D. So obviously we'd never actually like use 1D really for video games just because it wouldn't be probable. So we use 2D or 3D. So 2D is going to be, and you can create a 3D feel inside of 2D, but 2D is always going to be just up, down, to the left, or to the right. And you can see that if you go in here, yes, that's fine. Anyways, that's kind of the difference. Also, another big difference between it is 2D takes up a lot less memory than 3D. Think about it as 3D has to render this, this, and this, and also this side too, because it's 4-sided, while 2D really only has to render this. So it's essentially like one like fifth, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 1/6 technically of rendering power is required for 2D. So it makes it run a lot smoother, and it's a whole other bunch of things. But essentially, this consumes a lot less data because this is again like 6 times what 2D is. But if we go ahead and go in here, I can give you kind of a better feel of it. Right, because if we look at 2D like this is 2D. Obviously, there's no in between. In fact, if I try and go directly in the middle, it'll actually just disappear because there is no width. However, if I have a 3D cube, right, it's gonna have. Well, you see, these can actually still interact, but like I can see kind of through it in a way. But you see how like there's a bunch of different sides it has to render, and it has to render different positions too. Obviously, this isn't like truth 2D really because I can actually rotate it. But again, like obviously you can't do that. So now I'm gonna go ahead. I'm actually gonna adjust the color camera real quick here just because I like it better as black. I think what we'll do is we'll create a very simplistic game here. But now that we have our joystick here, we thought we did. I thought we just grabbed that. Did we not? I guess it didn't actually fully import, so let's go ahead and go back over here, and we'll redo that. We'll go to Open in Unity again really quick, and we'll go ahead and retry to import that. All right, there we go. Sometimes it likes to mess up and break like that. You just kind of gotta restart there, and just redo that. But let's see, what was this other one called here? Beautiful progress bar. Let's go ahead and add that to the assets. Open that in Unity. We'll have some cool stuff with this. We'll do like a health system or something small. And it probably won't take super long. And then we'll click import. This one shouldn't be as long. Cool. So now we have virtual buttons and stuff. So now we're going to go ahead and create a canvas for our UI. So you're going to basically just right click UI. Then we're going to go to image, and it's going to create a canvas, which we can only see in the scene view here. But we can actually see it here still, because that actually is not, that's going to appear over all this because it's not a in-game object, it's just a UI object. So we're going to call this UI, and then I'm going to actually just go ahead and delete this because wait, no, I'm not going to delete it. I'm going to go ahead and put this fix joystick thing in here. Oh, this is new. Okay. So this is different than I'm used. This is a bit different of an asset here than I usually mess with. So let's go ahead and see what this stuff here. Oh, it's because all the sprites are broken. That'll do it, I guess. Oh no, like, why is it not okay, let's try. Let's try and drag that into the actual, there we go. So now it's actually in the UI here. It'll actually start looking a bit normal here. Let's go ahead and shrink this kind of down a bit and then kind of apply it to our regular UI here. Then we'll try to we're going to set this kind of equal to our UI, just so it's sort of like, it makes it blend a lot easier. Also, this color doesn't really blend, it blends too much with our background. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and change that right there, and then slightly change that, just so it blends in better. So now if we go, oh wait, was that all in play mode? Theoretically, if we were to drag that along there, it would work correctly, but input class. Oh, okay. So what we need to do in order for this one to work, and this one, like, it's just all the joystick is it's just adding input to the X and Y axis. But all we need to do to fix our current error is go to our project settings here, drag them over to where the inspector is, go to player. We're going to go scroll a bit down to these other settings here, and then we're going to scroll down to where it's asking what input. So active input handling, and we're going to go ahead and select both. And we'll have to restart the scene, which is totally fine. It happens. But while we're waiting, I'm actually going to go ahead and explain something else. And that is basically movement. So how does movement work in video games? Okay. Movement. So how does movement work? Essentially, movement can work in a bunch of different ways. So let's say I have a joystick here. Now, when I want to move this joystick to the right, what I want to do is I want to say, hey, let's apply rigid body force. So actually, I guess we should probably start with a couple more things. So let's say we have a square character here. And this square character, we'll give him a couple eyes and a smiley face. This square character has a rigid body. Let's say this character has a rigid body here. and 2D rigid body because it's a 2D character. So what a rigid body does is it applies gravity to an object, which can be 2D. If it's 2D, what it's going to do is it's going to take your X and Y axis and apply a downward gravity to make it so your object goes down. And it's also going to basically read script. So does a lot of stuff. It's really cool. You can change the drag, a bunch of stuff. But essentially it just adds gravity to your character. So if we're moving the joystick to the left, what we want to do is we want to add force to the left. So basically, but like what does the left mean? Well, the left is going to be in the negative direction. If we see this is 0, then this would be 1, and then this would be -1. So we would add negative force on the x-axis to go left, and then same with right. And if we wanted to jump, we would add positive force on the y-axis, and all we really would need to do is then add that force, and automatically the gravity would take us back down. And that's essentially just how movement works. But like, so, and it's the same for joysticks. All you're doing is adding a specific amount of positive force depending on how far your joystick is out. So again, and then jumping. This one, jumping probably won't work really as well for here, so we'll probably confine it to just going left and right. But yeah, anyways. But so let's try that now. It should actually let us move this joystick here. Yeah, so there we go. So now you can see we can actually sort of move it. And there's a lot of different let's go ahead and make that normal again. But there's a lot of different stuff to it. But let's go ahead and add a progress bar to our, and we'll make it our health bar or something. And actually, you know what we'll do is we'll add a D-pad over here. Oh, why is this happening? It does not like it. Okay, so we'll add a D-pad right here. We'll make it bigger. Well, maybe we should add a prefab here. We'll add a prefab D-pad X, D-pad Y. We'll add a prefab right there, and it'll stay the same as that. So then what we'll do is we'll go over here to the center, shrink that one down. You can hold shift and click on the edge here, and it usually does it, but this one is actually not, so we're going to press R. Otherwise, going to the scaling tool, kind of scale it to where it kind of fits there. And then we'll just have kind of like that, I guess. Make sure your game is always on 16:9 at least. Which 16:9, or 16:9 landscape, because that's just how it's going to be. It'll make it a lot easier. But yeah, and then always set your UI over here. Go to this, say, scale with screen size, 1920 by 1080. Just setting your screen scale like that will always make it so your resolution can be so much easier to be read and like looked at. It's a lot nicer when you do it like that, and then also it'll probably make this look a lot more realistic. But let's put that there. The D-pad, we'll go ahead and we'll grab the center again there. Go ahead and increase that. You know, actually I really don't like that. I really don't like this D-pad there. Instead, we're gonna actually just put an X button in there. Kind of, you know, oops. Or we'll do a, you know, actually I'm kind of, yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll do a joystick, and then we'll add a button right there. Go ahead and import the TextMess Pro and essentials for this, and then we'll do that. But yeah, we'll just do this, and then I'll go ahead and increase the size here, and then we'll just literally put like X or jump. and then instead of auto size, we'll just lower it a fair bit like that. And then again, it doesn't like that it's a different color. So what we'll do is we'll just lower it kind of like that. And then now we have two things. We have a joystick that should work and a button that should technically kind of not work, but like work in a way. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our progress bar now, which will be over here in our beautiful progress bar. We can actually go ahead and click on our prefabs and kind of cheat the system, or we can make it ourselves. If you want to make it yourself, what you're going to want to do, I think these are actually using sliders. So what we're going to do if you want to make it yourself is go to UI, right-click, UI, slider, and then you're going to want to, probably going to want to, there we go. You're probably going to want to drag it to your top right, maybe increase the size a little bit so it looks a bit more like that. What you're going to want to do after that is turn off interactable, which will kind of get rid of this little knob thing here, which you can actually go ahead and disable the slide. Go ahead and go to the background here and click right here, and then you'll select like which one you want. I'm going to go for this one because it looks really nice. And then I'm going to make sure it looks normal-ish. And then I'm going to go to fill area, or fill, and then I'm going to select whatever I want for that one. This one will probably be that one. And then just set the value to 100 and see where it goes. And then, yeah, so then just basically what you're going to do there is you're going to set that like that. Just drag out your fill like that, and yeah, essentially that's pretty much it there. So now when we set it to 1 and we put it down to 0, when we put it down to 0, it realistically should be right around here. But then when we go to 100, it's going to do that. So let's go ahead and do that, just like that. And we'll do 100 instead, just because I feel like it makes it look better. And yeah. Oh, that's why it was all messed up. Okay, so don't do that. Actually, what you should do instead is put the fill to the fill area, select the fill area, and put that to the top. And then again, fill. And now if I go slider all the way down. Why? Okay, so I'm gonna try that. All the way down. There we go. There we go. So now it works a little bit better. So now if we're all the way up, going down, we dead. Boom. So now we have our little bit of a health bar. Call this health. And I think it's going to be pretty much the same thing if you just drag this in here. Although I think this one might be a bit more broken than it was. No, yeah, it's pretty much just the same thing. Just, yeah, this one's broken, so it's actually better we used our own. And yeah, actually, I think that this fill, okay, it does match it, actually. Nice, okay. So there's a little bit on our UI, a bit. And it looks sort of nice. And it has, like, we have our jump button, we have our health bar. And now we need to create a... Actually, first off, let's talk about this. So, asset store usage. What can I use in my games? What can I not use in my games? Essentially, you can use whatever you want on the asset store as long as you pay for it. Now, the catch is, when you make a video game, in order to be considered an actual developer, you need to actually make video games. Like, you can't go and download RPG Builder and then, actually, this is a bad example. This is a really good asset. Okay, I'll use one that I actually really like. I really like. I think this one's actually really cool, and my buddies used it on a project before. But, and like looking at it, it looks amazing. But like, right, like let's take this, and if you just built this, and then said, "Oh, I made a survival game," well, no, you really didn't. because like someone else made that and you sort of copied, bought it, the source code, and then publish the work. That's what we call an asset flip, and you want to avoid that as much as possible. So what I recommend as a really good rule of thumb is to whatever asset you use, try and change as much of it as you can and use it for a base. Example, like I have this one, right? We just downloaded this. These ones aren't as like big, but if it was like a character model, it's a bigger one. Like these ones, right? These are pretty much bases. Like it's just me showing you like how do you do this, right? And actually, real quick, I'll actually kind of go over how this joystick script actually works, because I feel like that's actually kind of a cool thing we can go over real quick. The joystick, virtual joystick, is when I open it, is essentially it's taking your mouse input and following it. So let's go ahead and open this. So you guys don't have to open this. This is just me kind of going through and kind of explaining the code, because like it's not super difficult to program one of these, but it's also one of those things where like it's really easy to find some that you don't have to make. And I mean it kind of goes for the same way here. Like if I went on Google, all I'd probably have to search is joystick script Unity, and I could probably, yeah, look at that, mobile joystick controller. Like it's pretty easy to find this sort of thing, but it's it's as long as you understand what's going on, that's what's important in game development. At least in my experience with game development, I have a million tabs open. But I don't like this. I'm actually going to remove their button stuff just because I think it's dumb. So go ahead and add an actual button script here, and then we'll go ahead and we'll have it boom, boom, and yeah, I think that's gonna work a little bit better, just because I think that their version is really bad for the button. Like that's too much, especially when there's already a built-in one like inside of Unity. So I think that's at least my 2 cents here. Right, so now we have a joystick that can move. We have a jump button. Okay, there we go. Right, we have just a bunch more stuff now. So we have a health bar, a jump button that we don't have any access to, obviously, but that kind of like could possibly work. And pretty much everything right now for our UI that we're going to be using in this tutorial. But that is actually where I'm going to call it a wrap for this one. Sort of a bit of a longer one, but definitely well needed, because this is probably one of the more important ones, is UI and then scripting. So anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you all for watching, and see you in the next one. Hey everyone, my name is Braden, and today we're going to be going over session number 3, which will be going over designing levels and also the player controller, which is going to be most likely the hardest tutorial that we will have here. It's going to be the longest. It should be around 30 to maybe 40 minutes, maybe. But it realistically shouldn't be. You'll notice my scene looks a little different. Ignore that. I was testing some things out, and I found that a joystick is probably the worst option, considering we're going for a platformer type game like this. So we're actually going to get rid of this joystick, just because it does not work at all. I tried making it work a bunch of different ways, and it just didn't really like it. So instead, what we're going to do, we're going to keep the jump button. But what we'll do is we'll go ahead and go to UI. We're going to create an image. Oh, maybe we might create an image. Why can't I? Jeez, it's not working today. But so then we're gonna go ahead and extend this out, kind of like this, and then we're just gonna kind of place it where we wish to have it. I'm gonna darken it a little bit, just like that, to make sure it's always showing. And then as long as if it looks right. So what I'll do is I'll put it like 300 by 300 or by 400, or wait, 300 by 400, 450, 500. Set to native size. Cool, that works better. And then we're gonna do this, kind of put it however it'll look nice on our little screen here. And then we're going to add a UI and another image, but on top of this one. So it's a little complicated here, is you're adding an image on top of this image. So this is going to be our button image. And this one we're going to call left. And go ahead and what you're going to do, take this, and you're going to put it halfway. And then just make it transparent like that. So the way you make it transparent is you click on color, the alpha, which is going to be how transparent it is. Go ahead and set that down to 0. Now we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to bring it right over here to the other side. And it should be a perfect copy. And then we'll name this right. So it already looks a little bit better. I'm personally a much bigger fan of this layout rather than the joystick. I think the joystick just adds a level of complexity to it that is completely unnecessary. But that's just me. So there's a bunch of ways we can go about doing some of this stuff. I'm going to actually go down over here to our ground here. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to just do kind of like just, and I'm going to actually remove that. Right. I'm just going to kind of do random stuff like that. Just kind of some random-ish stuff like that, just to make it kind of work a little bit. I think that we should already have a follow script. No, we don't. So we'll have to make that, which is fine. But for now, what we'll do is we're going to create, first we'll go ahead and put this over here. And then we're going to create a 2D sprite, and we'll do a square. Because who doesn't like squares? We're going to add a rigid, we're going to go over here, click add component. And then we'll type in rigid body and click rigid body 2D. I think I'm in debug mode. Nope, I'm in normal mode. You won't see all this, you'll probably just see this. What you're going to want to do, I usually try to set mine to about 25 mass and about 2 linear drag. And then I like to add a box collider. So we'll look a box like that, and we'll click on 2D. Let me make sure all my audio is recording correctly, and just making 100% sure that everything looks all nice and pretty for us. And it does. Nice. Okay. So, what else are we doing? So what we're doing here is we have this little thing here now. So if we were to go into like wireframe view, you see we have a little green square. That is the reference of our actual square here. So now if we actually click play, our little guy here should fall to the ground level right here, but he'll fall through. And that's because we don't have any colliders on any of these platforms. So what we'll do, we'll press F here. We'll hold shift and click on all these. So we'll click on the first one, hold shift, click down here. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this beforehand, but I think I have. If you're in W into this transform tool and you press Control D, you duplicate all of your stuff, which I think is pretty neat. But if you shift click all these and then you go to Box Collider 2D, then you'll see if I click play, that my little guy here falls and doesn't stays here. Now one thing you'll notice though is that like I can't move. Like no matter what I do, I'm clicking jump here and nothing's happening here. Right, you know. So if we go ahead and stop playing there and Control S always, make sure you save. What we'll do is we're going to go to our scripts folder. We're going to right click, create C# script. We're going to call this player. Now we're going to, what just happened? Okay, Okay, it was just compiling. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close these off real quick because we don't really need them. So I'm gonna drag player into this, just like that. Now, right now it doesn't have any variables, but if we actually open this up in Visual Studios, and just a reminder that you can set your preferences for your script editor by going to Edit, Preferences, and then External Tools, and then Visual Studios 2022 or whatever you want to use. So first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to create two public voids. Left button, put two square brackets like that, or curly brackets, just like that. So just typing out public void left button. This is going to create something that we can access through clicking a button. And then we're going to go down, and you're going to see it's going to auto. If you have 2022, it'll actually automatically try and figure out what you're doing. So right now it actually knows what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and press tab, and then put another curly bracket and enter. At the top here, what we're going to do is we're going to say bool, which is a boolean. A boolean is just a on or off switch, a yes or no. So we'll say bool right, comma, left, semicolon. Now what this is doing is it's creating two bools instead of having to do it, because some people will actually write it out like bool left, bool right, just like that, which is perfectly acceptable. It's just kind of awkward to do. So it's just easier to do like this, and the reason we have it set to like this, because usually what you do is public bool or private bool. The reason we're doing it like this is because it doesn't need to be public or private. It's only ever going to be accessed inside of this little class here. So it doesn't really need it doesn't really need any sort of declaration of privacy. Whereas these do, because we're using them in our buttons here. So to speed this up, let's go ahead and save this by pressing Control S. Ignore these. These are all old scripts that I was looking through. But so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our left button here and our right button here. And we're going to add the event trigger button thing. And we'll click here. It's going to say add new event type. We're going to add one, and we're going to add pointer down. We're going to add another one, pointer up. So what this is it's basically the same thing as a button, but it doesn't like it's more of a dynamic thing. So with on click, a lot of times it'll only run the event once, while with event triggers, they run them more than once. So I'm going to go ahead and click both of these, and I'm going to drag this square, which we should rename to player, really. And on top of that, when we're here, let's go ahead and go to tag up here and set it to player as well. Just because it's setting your tags right, it helps when you're doing a lot more complicated code. So we're going to go ahead and drag our player into this little event thing here. And then we're going to copy this component, go over to our right button, and we're going to go right here and click right click and then paste component values. So now what we're going to do is our left, we're going to go over here to our no function, click player, left button, right, player, right button. And then we're actually going to create something I call public void no button, or pointer off, whatever you really want to call it, doesn't really matter. But essentially what it's going to do is it's going to say right equals left equals false. What this essentially does is it sets both of them to false. It's saying that right is equal to left and left is equal to false. It's just some simple Boolean algebra. And so what we're going to do with the right button, though, is right is equal to true, just like that, and then left is equal to false. Go ahead and Control C that, go over to our left button, and we're going to just completely reverse it. So when the player clicks the left button, left is true and right is not. When they click the right button, right is true and left is not. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add an update function. You can just, if you're in Visual Studios, you can just type update and type tab. If you're not in Visual Studios, then you can just type in private void update and then parentheses and then 2 square brackets just like that, or 2 curly brackets, sorry. But then what we're going to do is we're going to make a couple if statements here. So we're going to say if right, and then if left. Now, here's a couple issues here already. What if it's right, but I don't want it, but like I click both of them at the same time because we're on an Android. So what you're going to want to do here is you're going to say if right and left. And wait, and not left, which an exclamation mark just means not, and not left. If you don't really feel comfortable writing code like this, you can also say if right equals true and left equals false. And that works just the same, but it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to write if right and not left. And yeah, so essentially it's just if this is true and this is not, if this is true and if right is not true. So it's just two opposites. So we're going to go ahead and make a comment here. If left is true and right isn't. And then again here, if left is false and right is true. So now what we're going to do is a little bit more complicated. We have to essentially make two things. So we're going to go ahead and make a public float, and then we're going to say move speed, or SPD, whatever you want to name it. And then we're going to go down, say public rigid body 2D. So this one right here, rigid body 2D, and we're going to say RB. So what we're also going to do is we're going to say void start parentheses, and it'll automatically make it if you're in Visual Studios, but again, it's just the same as this. And we're going to say RB equals get component rigid body 2D, that. So what this is doing is that when the game starts, it's automatically making 100% sure that we're accessing the rigid body and not the rigid body object. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to essentially, it's going to be, okay, so we're going to write this. RB.velocity equals new vector2, and then it should be transform dot x. No, that's wrong. Sorry. This one, okay, so we're moving from left to right. So this is our current velocity as our rigid body, which velocity is just how fast you're, or like where you're moving or how you're moving. So we're manipulating the velocity into a new vector 2, which is a 2D way. So it only goes x and y. So the x and the y axes are the only ones used here. So it's basically saying the velocity is now going to be, while right is on, the new velocity is going to be the move speed on the x-axis and then 0 on the y-axis. But you really don't want to, so that's what you would think, right? You would think that you don't want any velocity on the y-axis because it's a 2D game, right? It's actually not true 100%. What you want to do is you want to maintain the current y velocity. So what you'll do is velocity.y and then put the semicolon here. So what this is doing is it's saying the new velocity is going to equal the move speed being applied on the x-axis and the velocity, the current velocity on the y-axis. So it's keeping the current velocity on the y-axis so it's not moving, so it doesn't stop. And I can actually show you guys in just a second here what would happen if this would be 0. But real quick, we need to do something because this one is going to apply a positive move speed. So which means that, as we discussed in our last one, if you guys remember 100%, 2D works like this, right? Or actually technically like this. and this would be the negative, and this would be the positive side. Again, positive and negative. So when we're moving in a positive direction, our character is going to move this way. So we need to actually make this a negative number here. So what we're going to do is just times the move speed by -1. And then all we're going to do is copy this, paste this, and erase that. And so now wait, opposite ways around. I apologize. That is actually the opposite way around. This one is right, and this one's left. So this one is just move speed, velocity, y. So now if we go back into Unity, actually, if it ever decides to load. So now if we go back here, we click on our player. Let's go ahead. And another thing that this actually does, if I don't want to start the game, if I just say, oh, whatever, I'm not going to assign the rigid body, that get component automatically assigns it with our current rigid body. But now if we press like this, theoretically, if we press the right button, it would work. But it seems like it is not working right now. Oh, whoopsies. So make sure that we go back to here and we apply our pointer or our no button function to both of these. So player, no button. And then we'll go ahead and, so one debug purpose thing that you can do here is, where am I? Yeah, I had to go on the reference page because some stuff wasn't working for me. One thing we'll do here is we're going to put in 2 square brackets and we're going to type in serialized field. And this is just so we can actually check everything on this. But I honestly recommend just putting it in there anyways, but you don't really have to. But now you can see we can see the buttons now. So let's just see if they are being pressed. So right and left are both being pressed. So I wonder why it is not working. If right and not left, then the move speed. Oh, that is because we have not created a new vector to, what do you call it? Wait, hold on. Right and not left. True. What's happening here? Of course it works in the what you call it? I don't know what's happening here. Oh. Okay, so we actually need to have a move speed. So make sure we have a move speed set. Otherwise your character's not gonna move. I know, crazy, right? So now we actually should be moving. And because we actually set the linear, so here's what would happen if we didn't set a linear drag earlier. Our guy here would just, oh, wait, what? If we had like 4, our guy would just slide across like super far. And it would just keep building up too. So like, at least in the other tests I did, that's what happened. But with a linear drag, it actually slows him down, kind of like in real life with gravity. And it gives it that bit more smoothish. But anyways, like let's say 3. I'm gonna do 3, I think. I think 3 is a good area. But yeah, so that works. So our little buttons here work, and I'm just gonna go ahead and also add a little thing. It's fine, never mind. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a jump feature. So we're going to say public void jump parentheses, like just like that. Just like our other ones, but this one's going to be way easier. So what we're going to do now is the direct opposite. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to say nope, that's the other script I was doing. Rigid body dot velocity equals vector2, no wait, oopsies, new vector2, and then in parentheses we're going to say the same thing, so the same thing applies as last time. And this is kind of where it gets more like, oh, that's why, right? Because if we're jumping, we want to maintain our current velocity, right? Because if we're moving left and we want to jump while moving left, we don't want to just stop moving. So what we'll say is we'll say rb.velocity.x, comma, and then we'll say jump height, right? And then what we're going to do now, oopsies, put that semicolon in there. No. Oh, never mind. So semicolons on the outside, don't ignore me. So what we're also going to do is we're going to make a public float jump height. And I'm going to go ahead and put these together just because I like to be a little bit more organized with this. So there we go. So now we have a little bit more of a modular, what do you call it now? A little bit more of an actual game. But so now, oops, we should probably set the actual button to work. So let's go ahead and set the jump height to about 5. And we'll go back over to our button here. And this button, all we have to do is click plus, drag our player in here, player, jump. Boom, done. Now if we click our spacebar or a jump button, we jump once. And if we're also running, or like, see, it keeps us moving. We can also move in there. So like this is another example. If we're jumping and we want to move during a jump, that is another one of those velocity things. See, if we go ahead and set this to just 0, what you'll notice is that when I try to move, when I'm when I'm trying to, if I'm falling and I try to move, it's not gonna work, or I'm not gonna, what do you call it? So if I'm jumping and I'm moving, you're gonna notice, see, I'm not even really falling. The only like bit I'm falling is because of the like basic frame, like in between the frames when you are not holding down the button technically. But see, like I could probably even honestly make it to the other side here. And you see now I'm not falling at all. But if I drop it, so that's why you want to always keep your velocity. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make our little health system. So actually, we'll go ahead and we'll have a different script for that. We'll go ahead and we'll call this player movement. Changing script names like this is a little weird. So you got to change the script name in here, and then you got to reopen it. It's also going to cause a bunch of random stuff to pop up. Just go ahead and double click it again. And then you'll just have to rename the class just like that. And then everything else should update by itself. And yeah, oh, why are you popping up that too? Okay. Cool. So now we have jump height, move speed, left. We can actually go ahead, now that we know this all works, we can go ahead and remove that. And hold on 1 second. Okay, so now what is going to happen is, see, it's already automatically updated. So we're going to go ahead and create a new C# script. We're going to call this vitals, or player vitals. Now, for this one, we're only going to be doing health, so it doesn't really matter that much that it's in a new script. But I'm going to show you how to do it in a new script, just so it retains in a way, I guess, is the best way to think about it. But just so that if you have more like float. So for this, we're going to be doing public float, and then we're going to say health. And then, again, another one, but this one will be max health. But again, what we can also do with this is just this. And just make 2 at once. We're also going to need to add a new library. So we're going to go ahead up to here and we're going to type using Unity engine and just type in like that .ui, all caps, just like that. And now we're going to say public slider display or health d underscore health is actually a good way. So this is like a weird notation. D underscore health would be like display health. And like this one could be like C underscore health, and that would be like M underscore health. But there's just a lot of ways you can do stuff like that. But for this one, what we'll be doing is we're going to just basically go ahead and make an update. We're going to say D underscore health dot value equals health. And then D underscore health dot max value equals max health. And that's pretty much it for the void statement here. But, or I guess no, for the update. Other than the fact that we need to basically say if health equals 0, and then you would add, I'm not gonna add a death scene or any like death things here, but you would basically, what we'll do for this one is we'll say using Unity engine dot scene management, and then we'll go ahead and add a public integer, which is just a 0, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2. So it's anything that's so a float is between decimal points and an integer is just like solid numbers or whole numbers. So what we'll do is we're going to add a public in scene number, and we'll say if health is 0, then scene manager dot load scene, and then we'll type in scene number. Yeah, just like that. And then semicolon, just like that. Super simple. It's just going to basically reload the scene. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create something that's a little bit different. It's actually a dynamic interaction in a way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say void damage health. And I'm going to go into here and I'm going to set float dam amt. So what this is doing is it's creating a parameter that we can basically have inside of this, and it can be edited with certain things. So then what we'll do is we'll say health minus equals damage amount. That's all you have to do for that. Pretty simple. Now we're going to go back into Unity here. And we'll go ahead and we'll apply our player vitals script into the same object. And then we'll go ahead and all we'll have to do is we'll press this little circle button and click our health thing. And our max health should be 100. Our scene number currently doesn't have one. So we'll go ahead and save, file, build settings, and just click add open scenes just in case it's not in there. But this time it actually was, which is kind of surprising. It usually isn't. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to click 100, and then I'm going to add another 2D object here, and event trigger, and then I'm going to add a box collider 2D. I'm going to add it, make this is trigger right here. What that's going to do is it's going to say, oh, when you enter this little red area here, it's going to damage you. So we'll go ahead and we'll click here. Actually, hold on. Event. Hold on. So it's actually not going to let us do it like that, which is fine. So what I'll do here, just as a little demonstration, we'll create another C# script, and we're going to call this damage player. And so actually what I'll do instead, just because this is a really good way of doing it if you have just like a Unity event or an event, but those are kind of a bit more complicated. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to show you how to reference your vitals currently into another script. So what I'll do is I'm going to open up this damage player script here. I'm going to add this over here. And then we're going to just erase this. We're going to say public float damage amount or dam AMT, just like last time. And we're going to say void on trigger enter 2D, and then just press tab because this stuff's kind of confusing. But you're going to basically do this. Now what this is doing is it's saying if the player enters, then it's going to read the collider it has. So what we're going to do now, just as a test, we're going to say debug.log parentheses hi exclamation mark. So this is just a test here. It's mainly just to test if it's working. But let's actually go ahead and test one more thing here. We're going to say if collision, which is our current name, we're going to say collision.tag equals player. This is going to stop it from damaging us if, like, an enemy were to enter the actual thing. Go ahead and make sure you have a semicolon there. But this is going to essentially make it so that if you are not the player and you enter this, it won't do whatever we need it to do. So here we'll have damage amount, whatever, 15. And let's make sure our player is tagged as player. So now if we go ahead and click play, then it should hypothetically, of course, it should, when we enter it, log hi. Okay, great. But also, what it should also do, if we enter it again, it should log it again. What we can also do is test this just really quick. We'll duplicate this, and we'll take it off of that. And you'll notice that if we go in here, it doesn't do it. But if we went in here like this, it would obviously make it so that it would do it. But again, this one doesn't. This one does. Or well, one of them does. But anyways, so that's just a little safety measure here. But then what we're going to do is a little bit complicated. So we're going to type in void start. Go ahead and press tab again, just type in the same thing. Visual Studios realistically is the best script editor in my professional opinion. And what we'll go ahead and do now is we're going to say, we'll go ahead and actually do this real quick. We're going to say player vitals, and then we're going to call this player, just like that. We're going to say player equals game object dot, oops, wrong one. Game object dot find, or capital find object with tag parenthesis, and then this we're going to say player, and then we're going to say dot find objects with game object dot find object with tag player. Okay, so what we'll actually do here first, what we're going to do first is we're going to say game object player, and then we'll say p underscore vitals, just like that. It'll be easier. Fine, object with tag. Wait, dot get. Okay, never mind. We're good. We can just do this. Okay, so p underscore vitals, just same as last time, and then we're gonna say dot get component, just like that again, and we're gonna say player vitals, just like that. Obviously the parentheses afterwards, and what this is gonna do is it's going to look for the, oh my, yeah, you don't care about that. Okay, so what we're gonna do, what this is gonna do is it's going to look for the object with the tag of player and find the component vitals on it. So this makes it so that if you have like two of these, or like one of, or like, you know, more than one of these, like, you know, you don't have to actively try super hard to find it. You know, like, you don't have to like go to every single object and assign the player to it, because it'll automatically have him. But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna say p underscore vitals dot d, or dot health, and they'll say minus equals damage amount, semicolon, That is all you have to do. And now we've created an actual damage area for our person here. So let's go ahead and now test our new damage feature. And everything should work. And if we walk in, it'll lower our health. Walk out, walk back in, it'll lower our health again. Walk back out, walk back in, lower our health. In and out. And so there's obviously a lot of stuff that we could do here. We could make it so that if we stay in there, it'll actually damage us more versus less. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can do here to sort of fix that. But I am running just around out of time for here. So what I'm going to do really quick in the last couple minutes is make a smooth follow camera for Unity. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new script. We're going to call this follow. Usually I just use the one that's already in like a lot of places, but it's a little bit more confusing. Okay, so essentially what we're going to do here, it's a pretty simple script. We're going to put follow, and I'm going to go ahead and erase this stuff here. And then we're just going to basically have a target, but actually what we're going to do, because this is going to be a player camera regardless, so we're just going to go ahead and say player, and then it'll be a transform we need to have. So it'll be form player, just like that. And then we'll have a public float, so this one will be edited, is follow speed. And then after that, we'll have an offset. So public vector ray. This is kind of just like essentially, I don't know how to explain it. Okay, so it's going to basically, it's going to focus on here, right? So let's say our player is here. So instead of making the camera look directly as him in the middle, it's going to let him be like to the right a little bit, to the left a little bit. I don't know why that was so hard for me to explain. It just was. Yeah, so I know I'm whack. We can actually use vector 2 for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a fixed update of void in here, and I'm going to just put it like that. And I'm going to say vector 2, and then I'm going to say position W underscore position, wanted position, I don't know. So then we're going to say player dot, oh my, I can't even spell today. Player dot position. And then we're going to say plus, and it's going to be plus this offset here. Oh my lord, offset. Let's try that. There we go. Why aren't you working? Why aren't you working? I think we actually need to use vector 3 here. Okay, that works. That's fine. I just find it weird how vector 3 is used sometimes, but we're gonna do smooth position equals vector 3 dot lerp, and then I think that's what I gotta do here. Or no, I gotta do, instead of this, I gotta do wanted position here. And then we gotta times it by our smooth speed. Okay, so we're going to do our wanted position and then times our follow speed. Oh my, what just happened? It is not, Visual Studio is not working with me today. Follow speed. And then we have to go ahead and set our transform position. And yeah, smooth towards our smooth position. And let's make sure this is all right. So we have our wanted position, position, it is our current player's position plus the offset. So essentially it's going to say our current player position is going to be where our camera is going to be plus our offset. So it's going to say like, oh, so directly where he is and -1 on the x-axis. And then our smoothed out position, so when he's actually moving, it's going to lerp the want to position, and this is wrong. That is not supposed to be repeated twice. I don't know why I typed that out. This should be the position of the transform. Okay, so this will lerp the current position, and the vector 3 current position, the vector 3 of the want position, and then the float. So it's going to just kind of go slowly through 2 points. So the current position is our first point, and it's going to go to our wanted position, and it's going to go by our smooth speed. And then transformed out position equals the smoothed out position at the end. So this all should work. I say should because it's a 50-50 in code if you coded everything right and it doesn't work. Also, it's very common to miss problems with your code, but I don't know what that is. So let's go ahead and drag this in here. Our offset, our follow speed, we'll go ahead and set to like 0.5. We'll start at 0.5 and we'll see. And we'll go ahead and click play real quick. And it should move our camera already. It should just start moving our camera around. Did it work right? Cool, it didn't actually find our... Oh, that's because what we need to do here is we'll say void start here. Void start, just like our last time. And we'll say player equals game object dot find object with tag parentheses then player. The difference is we're just going to end it there. Nope, I guess we're not. Dot get component transform parentheses, and we'll end it there. And so now it should work. Obviously, like I said, never works first time. Nothing ever works the first time. It's very rare if it does. But now if we go ahead and click over here, if we click play, it should start following our guy. Okay. Sure. Okay. So apparently not. Why aren't you working? Oh, it's okay. So this is dumb and it's stupid. Set your thing to or negative 0.01 or 0.1. Set to -1. -1, I guess. Stupid thing about vector 3s is they work inside of 2Ds, but they don't, so you have to actually make them work, especially with cameras. So now if we just go ahead and play the game, it should directly follow our camera, and it should be sort of smoothish. So if we click over here, yeah, there we go. So now it's kind of smooth. Damage, oh no. And we're gonna cheat the game a little. And then we do it again. And obviously if we keep going in here and we just keep getting damaged like an idiot, then it's going to eventually kill us. And well, it's supposed to eventually kill us, and we're supposed to die. Oh, so the reason we're not dying is because we made a mistake in our vital script. Make sure that in our vital script on update, so if health is less than 0, it should just equal 0. And this is a common one that I always sleep out, but I'm a little silly sometimes. But that should actually be the last part of our coding experience, hopefully. And yeah, so, okay. I think I did the opposite. If health is less than 0, not bigger than 0, then health should equal 0. So one fun part about coding is that if it's a really obvious bug, you'll know what's wrong with it. So let's go ahead and click play. And again, if we go down here, and I don't really want to do that for 20 minutes, so instead what we're going to do is we're going to set our player health down to 10, which you'll see it automatically goes down to. But again, if we change the max health to 10, then it thinks it's a perfect. So if we set it down to 10, boom, it should reload the scene, and we should start from the beginning. So anyways, that's pretty much it for this session. It was very long, and I really apologize. I did not expect it to go this long. But it was great, and I learned a couple of things that I didn't realize. But that's all right. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Everyone, and welcome to the last session in our little tutorial series here about making an Android game inside of Unity. So, some things we're going to need to do is we're going to need to change some project settings and just edit some stuff. Now, actually, I guess it worked already. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to make some changes to the levels. I was supposed to do that in the last one, however, I did not get to it. So let's go ahead and just make some random, like, slight alterations in the level, you know, like just maybe one's going to be a gray, and maybe one will be a, like a gray, but then there's a little blue filling in it, you know, maybe like, I don't know, you know, just like, let's just make some random stuff up and, you know, like kind of mix up. So this one we'll set to appear higher in the order, actually. And what you'll see is that that gives the illusion of water. So like if I were to go over here and make sure I disabled this, you can actually make it into real, like, you can make water sounds and a bunch of stuff just by doing that. So let's go ahead and click play, and I'll kind of show you a bit. So like if we're over here and I go ahead and drop down in here, see, now it looks like we're in water, and that's kind of cool, I think. But obviously like, it's pretty obvious we're not in water in there. But anyways, I figured that was cool. However, let's add more like random stuff just like that. Let's add a little. We'll make this into like a beachy area or something. Just kind of fuck around here, and it'll be kind of like random. I mean, I don't know, just random stuff. You can do a lot of just random stuff with this. It's just a random little game here. And actually, what I'll do, just for funnies, is I'll actually give our guy a little face, just because I think that is hilarious. So let's go ahead and add a 2D object, a sprite, a square, and then I'll add a little. I'll make it red, and I'll give him some blue eyes. Right, you know. And then we'll go ahead and duplicate that, and we'll add a little white of his eyes. So, you know, I mean, and now he has a little face. I mean, I think he's kind of cute now. So now if we play it, our little buddy here has a face. Or he was supposed to. So we actually have to so we have to make these appear higher in a layer. So it's just this order and layer thing. You gotta click here, and then I'll go over to these little whites of the eyes, and I'll make those even higher. So now, if we play it, it should appear correctly. And yeah, so now if we just drop in here, you know, it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know. I think it's funny and kind of cute. It kind of adds a little bit of cuteness to the game. You can do a lot of stuff that you want with it. You can go to the asset store and find a bunch of different sprites and stuff. I actually went to the asset store and found this little synthwave music pack, and I think it's a really good one. And I'm actually going to also go ahead and go to our 2D thing here. And we're gonna look at free assets here, just on the 2D spectrum of this, and just kind of give a little bit of a better image of the asset store here. You can do a lot of stuff here. You can pop up all these random assets that are very useful, and there's a lot of stuff you can do here. But so let's go ahead and import our little music pack. So we can go to our thing here, import it, and I don't think we need very many, so I'm actually just going to import this revelation thing here. And I'm going to import the loop 1, 2, and 3, just because I think those are the only ones that are going to matter. And revelation sounds interesting, so go ahead and now we'll go to our music. Revelation 1, 2, and 3. Go ahead and lower that. This looks like it's going to be very loud. Yep, that's very, very loud, actually. So we're gonna go ahead and create an empty and add it. It's gonna be, we're gonna call it music, and then we're just gonna drag this on here. We're gonna click loop. We're gonna drag the volume way down, and now let's see how it is. So it's still very loud when we do that. So what we'll do is we'll drag it down to here. You can also set it to play in one ear or the other. It doesn't matter. It does matter. Only in some, like, but now we have a little bit of music. It's kind of a little epic for our guy here. But let's go ahead and actually add a skybox, just because I realized that we haven't done that yet. So let's go ahead and look up for skyboxes. And okay, didn't want that skybox. And we'll type in free. I just kind of want a random little spacey type of thing. And you can do like backdraws too. Those are also really cool. And order your levels based off of that. However, I think it's just a lot easier if we just do this. That looks really cool. Let's do that. And I think that skyboxes all work. They should work perfectly fine in a 2D, as far as I'm aware. So we'll go ahead and open the editor, download again. And while that's downloading, let's go to take a look at our project settings. So we're going to click File, Build Settings, Player Settings, and let's go ahead and take a look at here. So first thing we need to do is our company name is not the full company. So I'm going to put in my YouTube tutorials name here, and then I'm going to call this breaking space or something, I don't know. And then our default icon is going to be the icon that shows up everywhere. So I'm going to click this little guy. Actually, I'm going to click this little guy here because I think it's funny. Actually, no, I'm going to do this one. We don't need to worry about a cursor considering we're on Android here. And then we don't really need to worry about any other things here. We can do, so this is a key store manager. Does matter with certain things, like if you're doing it on the Apple or the iOS store, but they should be able to help you with that sort of things. You can also do custom key stores, which are really cool and stuff, but if you need to do that, then the actual publishing people should be able to help you with that better than I'll be able to. But however, with publishing this, now we can go ahead and import it. With publishing your games, there comes a very big question. It's always, where should I publish it? Where should I go to it? And I like to look at it like this. Okay, you have this. Let's say this is like a representation of like all the places you can publish your stuff. And I've been doing a lot of picture representations because I think they're interesting, actually. And you got your Game Jolt. You got your itch.io. You got your Apple Store. You got your Play Store. And all these. Now, one thing you have to realize is that all these are exactly the same thing. Obviously, we're doing Android, so we don't actually need this, but these all apply still. But one thing you got to realize is that these are all exactly the same thing, except with one difference. This one might get you more random people playing your game and also gets you support with Android. This one will offer you the ability to write devlog, and people can look at your progress throughout the game. This one has pretty much similar features, except they have it's more focused on games, where itch.io has a lot more people focused on like assets and like different stuff. However, if you're asking my personal opinion, I prefer itch.io over all of them, but either one is viable. Play Store, I think, costs, let's see, developer license, Android. App licensing, I think it's like $200. Play Store, publishing cost. There's a one-time fee of $25. Actually, that's not that bad, but I mean, it's pretty solid. It's account costs $99 on iOS, which is why Android's better. But anyways, yeah, that's just my whole thing on that. But that's just like, you can realistically, going anywhere, if your app's well, it's gonna do well. But the main thing is marketing and all that stuff, which is a whole other subject I can't cover in the span of this, or the scope of this tutorial series. But now we have a little random skybox that I think is kind of cool. And so now let's go ahead and set our camera to be able to see one. It's actually, I kind of want to see what the difference is between all these. They're all they all seem to, like, I don't know. But it's gonna take a minute to load in, and that's fine. And almost ready. We're almost done here. There we go. So now, wait. Nope, not even. Okay, now we're gonna go to our Starfield skybox. We'll drag our skybox. We're gonna drag our skybox in there, and now if we go into game view, obviously you can't see anything. However, that can be fixed by going right here to main camera and clicking skybox. Yeah, I just think it's kind of cool. I just think the skybox adds a lot to it. It adds more atmosphere to it. And oh wow, yeah, I forgot to change that music there, huh? Make sure you set that really low because that's very loud. But I don't know. I think this adds a lot to the atmosphere, actually. Obviously, it looks very confusing as to why there's, like, this stuff here, but just ignore it, I guess. But anyways, yeah, that essentially is how you make your own little, like, at least, like, your own start to, what do you call it? I mean, that's essentially how you make your first game here. I mean, it's really all there is to it. Now, obviously, I've clicked into the simulator mode to see what it's gonna look like, and I've now noticed that our UI is just a little off here. It's because we don't have it actually centered here. So we're gonna click here and there, because I kind of forgot about this. But then there, that's already set. This needs to be set up here, just like that. And so now if we add the game scene here, it should work nicely. That's good. Cool. So now if we go to our simulator, should all be fine no matter what you're on. One other thing I had forgotten about this part is when you build the game, you're actually going to need to connect an Android device. You see, if I press Control B to build the game, it's going to give me an error and say, you have to make sure your Android device is plugged in. So you're going to want to make sure that developer options are on. And so what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you guys, if you don't know how to do that, just look up developer options and basically turn that on. You have to turn on USB debugging, which you guys can figure out like right here. You have to have an Android device, or there's other ways you can build it, however they're a little more complicated and I don't exactly have all the time to do that. So what you're going to do is you'll plug in your Android device, and then it should say like something blah blah, like, oh, look at that, your device is like plugged in or something. And if you press Control B now, it'll be like, oh hey, you actually have something to build to. And then if you build to this builds, it'll pop up the APK right here, and it'll have like debug info here, but you don't need that. You only need this APK file right there. But yeah, and then it'll pop it up on your phone and everything, and it'll work all nice. But that's how you build it. Make sure you plug in your Android device for that. But anyways, that is actually going to wrap it up, I believe, for this one. Remember, publishing, no matter where, just publish wherever whatever works best for you. But that's essentially it. I hope you all enjoyed. And yeah, see you all in the next one.